Welcome to The Night Temple, a podcast about art, memory, and inspiration.
Hello. Hi, guys. Thanks for being part of our conference digitally. It's really fun to add extra panels like this into it.
And such great high caliber of a panel also.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
This is only the best of the best.
Yes.
That's it.
And this is just such a cool project to talk about as well. I mean, it's the one, I don't think any person's life has been untouched by fascination of dinosaurs. And it's a really vast topic to tackle.
Yeah.
So I guess, starting with you, Dan, how did the idea come about to do this project now?
Well, we made a sort of predecessor almost called Life on Our Planet, which was also for Netflix. It was an 8-part series that Lorne and I worked on. And the goal of that was to try and tell the entire story of life from 4 billion years ago in the primordial soup right through the ages of fish and reptiles, amphibians, dinosaurs, birds, mammals. And the goal really was to sort of contextualize life on Earth today, to understand the journey we had all been on to get here. But while we were making it, we were also very conscious of the fact that the chronology that was the driver of the series had to tick really quickly, because you had to get from 4 billion years to present day in 8 50-minute episodes. Yeah. So it meant that we could only scratch the surface on some things. And one of those things was the dinosaurs. And it was actually during Life on Our Planet, or Loop, as we called it, that we realized there was so much amazing stuff to tell about the dinosaurs, and we didn't have time. So we kind of parked it and thought, right, we're going to come back to that later. And luckily, Life on Our Planet was a hit big enough for Netflix to say, yeah, that thing you said you wanted to do later,
you achieved it.
That was the time. Yeah, we were allowed to go and focus on it, which was fantastic because, as you said, they have fascinated everyone forever.
Yeah.
So it was, kind of perfect.
I was also wondering, just in terms of from the show's perspective and the musical perspective, when you're tackling a large subject like this, there is a sense inherent in the show that it is the story of the planet and the Earth, and that is sort of always a perspective that is what on an emotional level, what you feel as you're watching it. Is that intentional for you, or because you were focused more on dinosaurs with this, were you taking on a specific era's perspective or dinosaur perspective in the telling?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I mean, look, as we came to design the series, we were always, as filmmakers and scientists, but in filmmakers in this part, looking for the heroes and the villains, and making sure that we were telling a story that was full of surprises, but also emotion and wonder and all the rest of it. And we soon realized that the ultimate villain is the planet. The dinosaurs themselves, almost at various points in their history, became too big to fail, too successful. They almost didn't have a rivalry. I mean, that's a real oversimplification, I recognize. But their biggest nemesis was definitely the planet. So I'm glad you spotted that, because that was something that we wanted to do narratively, and that also fed through to what Lorne was doing. That Lorne really excels at making characters come to life, and the Earth had its own theme because it was constantly, at times providing opportunities for the dinosaurs, but mostly knocking them down.
Yeah, I think that was we've always talked about that fact of how do you write themes that represent something larger than life, i.e., the concept of extinction. Well, what is that? What is that meant to sound like? And really, what it comes down to really is about that emotional connection to survival. So when you kind of remove the size of something and you make an emotional connection to it, that's then when it kind of becomes an easier task. Because look, it could be a drinking game, this, but you could kind of just say the word Jurassic Park. And I remember that when Dan and I first talked about this project, I did say, I said, I don't know what you do musically, because we are in that world of you see it, you're going to hear it no matter what. You kind of you associate yourself with that world. And Dan, you know, he did kind of say it in a very eloquent way, like he has, but it is those subject matters. It is about extinction, and it's not necessarily about species or the individual. It's about the bigger picture, and it's the concept of the earth, and something also that on the prior show, it was the power of the planet was that conversation also, and the concept of extinction. But this was now kind of a new journey. So yeah, it's about how do you make the audience connect? Yeah. You know, you see something that you can't relate to, so you have to kind of be able to kind of close your eyes, listen to the narrative, and connect. And that's how you kind of musically have to kind of do something for the audience that they can then relate to.
I have a question that I'm just kind of really dying to ask. Actually, it's I'm a vocalist, so I notice voice straight away, and there is a strong human, you know, vocal instrumental presence there throughout the theme. And was that because that immediately connected me to exactly what you're talking about. I was like, yeah. I was in it now, because there was this human element in this non-human world that was so ethereal and moving and instantly, you know, connective. Was that connected to the theme of the earth or the themes in general, or was that
it's something that we talked about on Life on Our Planet, aka Luke, about the fact of what we connect to, and the first thing was rhythms or percussion, because that would have been the first instrument, but vocals are the origins of music. That's how melodies were created originally. So no matter what, we always kind of connect to it. Yeah. And we had a lot of soloist singers just trying to kind of move away from that quintessential cinematic choir sound that we all associate with, whether it's angelic or whether it's a horror. There's a very cinematic sound. Yeah. So the vocalness was to try to hit home and make it something that feels back to this kind of primeval world. Because Life on Our Planet, it became very academic. You know, I was making videos and sending it to Dan of some of the bone flutes and the first, all of these great examples. And sometimes it becomes a bit of a magic show. I think you kind of you don't always need tricks with film scores. I know it seems to be the trend. Everybody wants to kind of be selling a unique musical instrument for something, but sometimes maybe just melodies should be your.
I think what I love, Lorne, about your use of human voice is that I think one of the challenges we had as filmmakers was, despite months and months and years even of scientific research to ensure accuracy throughout the series, even in spite of that, it is still made up animals doing made up things. You know, it's a VFX representation of a creature doing something that paleontologists have advised us to do. And so, as Lorne said, it's when you start, if we get that wrong as filmmakers and the mask starts to slip, then suddenly no one's relating to these creatures. Yeah. And as a result, I think the use of that human voice was like a deliberate way to try and help make sure we always stayed with the audience and we didn't give them an opportunity to think this is just made up.
Definitely my favorite element of the score, and I think it's stunning use.
It's Dan singing, actually. It's actually Dan's voice.
It was beautiful.
Thanks. It's one of my many talents.
I can't tell if you guys are joking or not.
No, it's British sarcasm. It's it is something about it is true. Also, the importance of this, because the funny thing is that I learned this on with another Netflix show, The Crown, and I learned how when you create something, it becomes fact.
Yeah.
And every dinner party, what you have just watched then becomes part of a narrative. And this is very much weirdly kind of the same case, but it's harder because it is something. We're looking at something that might as well be a transformer.
Yeah.
Because we can't fathom it.
Yeah.
And we can't fathom. Dan, what's that interesting fact about the iPad? Do you remember? I always, the difference of time. I love this fact. And this is what makes me fall in love with these shows.
Well, there are all sorts of interesting, great facts about dinosaurs, but one of the coolest things is how long they were on the planet for.
Yeah.
So in context, human beings have been on the planet for about 200,000 years, and dinosaurs were on the planet for about 170 million years.
Yeah.
And so the cool fact that Lorne is referring to is if you saw a picture of a T-Rex fighting a Stegosaurus, classic kind of dinosaur cliche,
Yeah.
and then you saw a picture of a T-Rex holding an iPad and said, which picture is more wrong? It's the T-Rex holding an iPad because they missed each other by 66 million years. So iPad invented like 15 years ago and T-Rex lived at the end of the Cretaceous, whereas a T-Rex missed a Stegosaurus by 90 million years. Like they never even came close to seeing each other. So it's more wrong to see a T-Rex holding being with a Stegosaurus than it is holding an iPad. Yeah.
Yeah.
And every book I had as a child would have had that.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
I think that's like an interesting thing about the series. It seems like so much of it is about like expressing time and scale, and there's like a relationship with the intimate moments. We have that human intimacy, but putting that in a context where we can understand scale. Like where you have those transitions where you hint at the extinction that's going to happen like hundreds of millions of years away,
and the time warping, the concept of the time travel, that is also something that's very important. The kind of see the sheer mass period of time. We're so insignificant, us as a ruling body.
Yeah.
Our time here has been so insignificant. It may be very, very important with what has been created, but our ownership of it is so insignificant with it.
It was actually one of the challenges of the show. I mean, even more so with Loop, less so on dinosaurs, but still an issue, was the fact that the march of time is such that you often couldn't really have returning characters, because by the time you wanted to check in and see how's that guy doing, it's been dead for 30 million years. So instead you had to follow the descendants of that dinosaur, and again I think that is elegantly reflected in the score in a very subtle way that maybe people won't notice, but like you do see a Stegosaurus, and then in a different episode 50 million years later you see another type of stegosaur go extinct, and the music shares DNA across those two. So again, it was just a way of helping the audience realize, oh yeah, this one was related to that one, which
There's a real through line, with the show, with the music. Like the music feels like, as much as a narration, like the central point of view. Like there is just and something that you said earlier, Lorne, about people trying to pull tricks out of the hat. Where
I know I shouldn't have said that.
No. But what I was,
it's true.
But what I was going to say with that is your superpower is melody and emotion through just pure music, without any tricks being involved. There's always a voice in your work that's so has a bit of melancholy to it for me, as well. Like there's a lot of emotion there. There's a lot of feeling in the melodies that you create, and in the track Life and Death as well. Like there is such a sense of that, and there's such a journey with that piece that you go on, as it feels like it's got its own narrative kind of essence. What was the process of working on that particular piece?
I always think I think that our jobs as composers is to help translate what the filmmakers are wanting. They may not know in a musical sense what they're wanting, but I think that when Dan or any of the team would talk about things, it is that they're wanting the audience to yearn and want to be part of this creature's journey, and we don't, that's what I'm trying to translate, basically. I think this medium of natural history, or however you want to kind of describe it's always been Dan and I talk about this all the time. There's a lot of cliches all the time, and musically sometimes it's kind of been doing the same tricks for like about 30-40 years. And you have the narration, and when the narration stops, you play a theme, and then you stop playing the theme when the narration comes back in. And there's a lot of that seems to have never changed. But what's always interesting is the fact that Dan and the team, but mainly Dan, don't want to do the tricks.
Yeah.
And I think that's when you're writing themes, you're trying to not go down. I'd like to think that we didn't go down the Jurassic Park faction, where you are basically trying to be majestic for the sake of it. There isn't. We're not trying to kind of do that. We're either trying to do the sheer power of what we're seeing, or power of the planet, or power of their survival, or the humanity of those emotions. And also, I'm Scottish, so anything I write is slightly sad, it seems.
Andrew is Scottish descendant as well.
Oh dear, all minor chords, Andrew. You see.
Yeah.
And and it's just really it brings the humanity out a lot more, I think, having that emotion in there of sadness, because I hadn't personally had such an emotive experience looking at these ages passing before on the screen. It was just a completely different experience.
It's like a bit of a tragedy, that there's, the whole series has this, it's got this end point that's constantly flashing, even it's just these time travel to
yes. And I think that was always the brief from the beginning with Dan was the fact that you were trying to kind of make a story and feel invested in these characters, so that it's not just a history lesson. And I get that feedback where it's from grandparents, or it's from children. They feel invested in this show, and that's why it makes it an honor to be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, Morgan Freeman's voice has to be
voice of God.
Yeah, something that we touch on here, especially with how much bass is in it and how melodic it is, and how every word coming out sounds very profound as well. And I'm just wondering, in the writing of the narration, and the working of that perspective, and musically, like how much did that come into the mind before actually getting there?
You keep out of it. You keep the hell out of it. It saves you a lot of work.
Yeah.
You've got. You're not having to work harder, because you have got a rich voice that, firstly, and it is a voice of God, that we have associated with, but it's a voice of safety and authority.
Yeah.
And that's very unique. There's not many voices that do that, if any. and so you know that you can't go to battle with it.
Yeah.
So I think with composers, it's like the conversation of sound effects. You know, you can't battle. A sound effect is going to be louder, so you choose your moments, and I think that with Morgan, it is something that is so rich. You just don't have to overly work.
Yeah. And it was what I noticed in the sound mix. Everything is occupying a space and not overlapping with each other. And so it just gives you this, it actually, like, weirdly, it gives you a wider sense of space, that they're not all locked into battle, that the sounds aren't locked into battle. It feels more open and larger, and even the sound of the wind occupies, you know, a space, and that doesn't interfere with what's going on in the instrumentation. Like, everything balanced.
Well, I think our tastes are. I'm not going to say becoming more educated, but as the audience is getting tired a lot of the time with constant barrage of sound.
Yeah.
And it's no longer realistic. And I think there's scenes in this show when you can hear it and smell it. You're there.
Yeah.
And I think that and that's what you're trying to create, because I think if you look at the role of music from 20, 30 years ago within this genre, there is a very melodramatic approach to it, where it's very old school music, and the audience they know those tricks now.
Yeah, it is really fatiguing as well to have that.
And I think sometimes the issue is the way audio post-production is sort of scheduled, actually, that you spend all of this time capturing your footage. You spend so much time in the edit, honing the images. And then when it comes to audio, everyone is doing all of the stuff at exactly the same time.
Yeah.
So the composer is busy composing the music. The producer is going off to get the narration. The Foley and track lay people are putting all of the other sounds together. It all arrives at the same time, and there's kind of audio overload.
Yeah.
What we did for the Dinosaurs, we knew that we had amazing audio that people wanted to hear. We had Morgan, we had Lorne's incredible score, and we were going to have the soundscapes of the dinosaur world, which people would also want to hear. And there's some really fun stories that we were able to do for that. We included some research from these scientists at the University of Leicester in the UK, who had literally used fossils to bring back the noises of 200 million year old insects. So
really?
the atmos you're hearing is literally the same insects that dinosaurs would have heard, which is cool. Anyway, so we knew we had these ingredients. So for the dinos, we changed our audio post schedule so that we got the ingredients individually, one after the other. So we got Morgan's voiceover. We now knew where he was going to be, what he was competing with. Then we put the other track lay dino noises on, and then Lorne had that stuff to then score around. So he never had to. We never were in a situation where we were thinking, "Shit, we've now got everything peaking," because it was kind of designed that way.
That's I haven't heard that really being done before. That's really that's a unique approach. That's very
But I would do it again, definitely.
And also I think it's the importance of writing early, because the thing is that we were able to get cues approved and then get it to the sound team so that everybody's kind of on the same way, but also tone. You know, it's knowing that if there's a kind of a frequency that's not going to work with the music, why leave it to the last minute? You could have discussed it. And we're writing on a show like this a year and maybe I think Theme started 2 years, but you've got, there's no reason why you shouldn't be doing it. It's just bad management sometimes.
Yeah. And I mean, it just changes the entire experience of the show, just having it be that way, where there is, like, you know, this sense of intimacy and and grandeur, like, can have their own voice and their own space. And it's really beautiful. It was one of the first things I noticed was the sound mix as well.
Good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I mean, I'm a producer, so maybe that's why, but still I was like, wow, this is actually the best sound mix I've heard of, like this, the best balance.
Oh yeah, I agree, and I think it was difficult. Like the beginning of episode 2, the world is basically cracking in half. Dinosaurs are dying left, right, and center. It's really emotional and harrowing, and there's so much going on. But yeah, these two guys at a company called Films at 59, Andy and Brian, just did an amazing job in making sure that you heard everything that you needed to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, it's amazing. And then the recording process, where was this recorded? Like, what was that?
The RSNO, the Royal Scottish National Orchestra. No favoritism to anything Scottish.
Yeah.
But they are fantastic, and there is favoritism. I'll do anything to help the cause of Scotland. But they are they are one of the best orchestras in the world, and with a show like this, we are lucky. You know, a lot of shows don't have budgets. Sorry to say, but they don't, and it means that you can't you can't create that extra dimension that live musicians bring to it. Technology it's funny, we discuss this every like 3-4 years about samples, and it's still chalk and cheese. It's still not compatible, and we could have recorded anywhere, but we had a great experience with Royal Scottish National Orchestra on the last show, and it's it's great working with them. Also, whenever they're doing like a random showcases, they play the music from the show now, so it's been great for them also, as well as us. But it is, with especially with TV, the concept of recording is getting rarer and rarer.
Yeah.
They don't have the budget, so with this it's a luxury to have a production that are very clear with that's what they want.
And do you attend these sessions ever, Dan?
I do it on Zoom.
And Dan too? I was just curious.
Yeah, I did. So for Life on Our Planet, that some was recorded in London. It was mostly the
NSO,
RNSO, but the LSO, London Symphony Orchestra, did some too. So that was a bit more convenient.
Yeah.
So I went to a couple of them. For the Dinos, in fact, I think all 4 of our producers.
All 4 of them, yes.
Yeah, Darren, Jolien, Amber, and Nick. They all went to attend across a couple of days. So
that's so nice, because it's just something that I feel is really magical that the world outside of composers don't often get to experience. I personally, whenever I go, I still just find it amazing that an orchestra of 70 odd people have never seen this track before. They've never seen this music. They don't know what is happening in the imagery, and they get counted in, and suddenly they just play this piece, which is mind-blowing.
Yeah.
Although I think this time we did show them, they did have imagery to see. I mean, yes. I don't know whether people do go and
no, we switched that. No, we can play them some scenes, but that's the thing, that everybody then starts bending their neck and kind of watching it, so that we've learned to kind of switch screens off. But it's a craft that doesn't get appreciated enough. The fact that they have never seen or heard that music before, and they sit down and we record. They don't practice it. We do a take, and sometimes, depending on time, we may not get a second take. We may need to go on to the next cue. So it is amazing, and also the instruments that they're using. Some of them, the history to them, it's it's unbelievable. But no, it's a privilege that we get to have real musicians.
Yeah. It was there like I mean, you mentioned the instruments. Was there the instruments that they were using that, was particularly, you mentioned bone flutes and stuff like that.
No,
Yeah.
no, we went down that route on the last show, and it was,
Can I tell a story about that though? Just
yeah.
I think this is quite funny. That Lorne said that he's had this great idea because the whole story of life on our planet, this huge chronological contextualizing life on Earth today. He said, I've got an idea that I'm going to get a hold of a 3D printed copy of a Neanderthal bone flute. So it's the oldest human instrument. I think it's 30,000 years old. And got hold of this 3D copy. And I was like in awe of this, thinking this is a composer taking things to a new level. And then he said, and I've got this guy, I think his name was Pedro. Is that right?
Yeah. The flute guy.
Yeah, he can play any woodwind instrument. He's absolutely amazing. So we go onto a Zoom call with Pedro. He's got the 3D printed bone flute. He starts playing it, and it sounds awful. Absolutely awful. And I'm like, I had all these dreams for this to be like in the marketing of the series and all of this stuff. But I think what Lorne ended up doing is like burying it in the back of the orchestra, and so it's there, so we can claim
it's just a lot of reverb. You've got a lot of reverb on it, and all of a sudden, that's pretty good. But yeah, the thing is that a lot of the time when we kind of find these kind of academical reasonings to do things, there may be a reason why they haven't sustained in life.
Yeah.
These instruments.
Yeah, I mean,
we did also use
different scales as well, right? Like, it probably wouldn't even make sense to our ears.
Yeah,
no,
it didn't. But we did also use the Carnix.
The Carnix,
and that was a really amazing instrument in Life on Our Planet. I think it's a Roman instrument.
A Roman, yeah.
And that gave it a really sort of haunting mystery that I thought worked really well.
Yeah, it's a big bronze tube that they used to use for war, and when you blow it, the front tongue vibrates. So it was a visual thing, but it was Celtic Europe period of time. But no, I think you can go down that, and it gives you inspiration. But then I think then sometimes I don't know. I just didn't feel that we needed to kind of go down that we had done that journey and that discovery, and I think with this, it was more a case of just focusing on emotion rather than academia.
Yeah,
I mean, and that's the sense of it too. It's like I feel like the story becomes more alive through that emotion of the music, and that feeling of it is just so connective that it brings you into the time. It just takes you, straight into it. So that makes sense. Well, is there a plan for additional, perspectives?
You mean sequels?
Yeah, I didn't want to lay the pressure on that, but
the return.
Yeah.
The return.
I mean, we would love to go again. I think, and it's clear that as you said at the very beginning, everyone's fascinated by dinosaurs. The show did brilliantly well, and I think we've got some really nice ideas for how to continue. So I'd say the ball is in Netflix's court, but my impression is that people want more.
Yeah, if you build it, they will come. That's the way I look at life.
Excellent.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Yes,
Yeah.
for sure. Well, we're hoping for more because it was, absolutely incredible as a series, and the music is just gorgeous, stunning, and honestly, just listening to it, you know, around, we've been listening to it around the house and everything. Like it really just stands alone as really strong work as well. So,
it makes cleaning the toilet more entertaining.
and
That,
that's
you
what
know, if that's the least we've done in life, you know, it's we've done a job.
That's the clickbait right there.
Which hopefully is an extinction event.
Too far. Thank you so much, Lorne and Dan.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Thanks.
Thanks.